Orla and Taoiseach. The new draft National Risk Assessment highlights, quote, a decline of people's trust in institutions as a risk facing the state. I would make the case that cronyism, corruption, a complete lack of transparency have meant that more and more people are disgusted by the politicians and by the institutions in this state. And I would ask the Taoiseach to comment in that respect on the recent actions of his Minister Robert Troy, which we know thanks to an article by Aaron Rogan in the Sunday Business Post, that he recently met in his position as Minister in the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment. He met with big tech companies to discuss Ireland's national position on upcoming European legislation, namely the Digital Markets Bill and Digital Services Bill. He met with them only after the companies were assured that there would be no detailed minutes taken of what was being discussed. They wrote expressing concern as to the FOI dimension, assuming a note of the meeting would be kept that would be subject to FOI, but that the note would not be overly detailed, and were assured that only a, quote, high-level and anonymised overview note of the event will be drafted for records purposes, and that the meeting will be subject to so-called Chatham rule. The details of who actually attended the meeting are not provided, and there are no detailed minutes of what was discussed. Is this not very poor behaviour, an attempt to evade the lobbying rules and to have backroom, closed-door discussions with corporate lobbyists? Should Minister Troy come out and explain who exactly attended the meeting and what was said?
First, I want to thank all the deputies for the issues that have been raised. In terms of Deputy Murphy, first of all, big tech companies meet with government ministers on a regular basis. They're responsible for thousands and thousands of jobs in the country, which I think should be acknowledged. You rarely acknowledge that, I note in correspondence, but that said, there has to be meetings with such companies, and they should be transparent. There's no issue, in my view, with meetings. They have to be. That's how I approach it, and I don't know the full background to the circumstances there. As a Minister for Enterprise and a Minister in the Department of Enterprise, it would be natural and normal for a Minister to try to meet with companies, and also in the context of the Digital Services Act, it would be important as well, because there are issues that relate to, other countries have different agendas around the legislation, and one of our concerns thematically would be that we don't believe in protectionism. I don't believe in the idea that there should be a fully sort of Europeanized technology sector that must be, through regulation or through legislation, must be discriminated in favour of against other sectors and from different locations in the globe. I don't necessarily accept that. I'm not saying that's going to be suggested, but it's a concern we have, that laws can in themselves become protectionist, either by design or by accident. And I think there are legitimate issues in that space that need to be discussed, and that also need to be understood in terms of the risk here to employment for negative consequences that could arise from legislation. Now, the good story, of course, is that the European Union always works by consensus. We'll engage with every member state. We will make a contribution to that process. We will listen to stakeholders in relation to it, particularly those, the citizen of the country, the views to protect people from a lot of what's going on online, from a lot of the products of some of the companies that have been, some of which have been injurious to people in terms of what's happening online more generally, and in terms of algorithms and their negative use. And I would argue that the use of algorithms, the online platforms, is the more substantive issue, actually, in terms of undermining the political system and political institutions. It's been the big transformational change in the last decade or two in respect of politics and how politics is commented on, and how the narrative around politics develops. And some of it can be useful. positive, but a lot of it can be very negative. And I'm not just talking about the negative stuff, you know, the hostile, the hatred. I mean, it's very interesting online now. Individuals are targeted in a very hostile, personalised way. The only objective there is to undermine the individual. So that is contributing to the undermining of individuals in politics, in positions of office. And a lot of it is not substantiated, and a lot of it is and then the algorithms come into play. And then you get your trending, and you get this, and you get all of that. Okay, but I just want to make that point. Yeah, I just think that's an issue that is a risk. There should always be. Well, there should. I mean, it should be clear who was there. You know.